Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. We shall begin and being assisted by a sign language interpreter, Mr. Victor Mwania, and also our panelist, Wandia Maina, who I'll just introduce in a bit. So this is a follow-up session after our previous post-reflections during the 15th September. And so today we'll just do a brief session on looking back at what we did the previous time, and also allow the participants to have an ample time to ask questions and also follow up with their mental wellness. So before we begin, Ms. Wandia Maina, kindly introduce yourself and then we can begin the session.
Good morning, participants, and Virginia, thank you for allowing me to be part of this process. I am a counseling psychologist. I am a clinical director at Intrapersonal Health Services, and we are located in Nairobi. I've been a psychologist for over 15 years now, and I look at wellness and mental health from a holistic perspective. So it's not just about how you are mentally, but how you also are physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. I believe each different component of our lives contributes to how we are. So I'm looking forward to engaging with you during this process. So as you have been told, I'll just take you through briefly, just to recap what we had discussed during our last session. And this is for the benefit of those who are not with us. So I'll just be touching on the highlights, and also as a refresher for those who were here for the past session as well. Okay, so as always, I want to begin by helping us to recognize what are some of the indicators of poor mental health. And anyway, before I get there, I also just want to encourage you, or to also let you know that mental health is a journey. From where you began your process and to where you are today, it takes time. You did not get there in one day, it's a process. So it's important for us to always be aware of this, to be patient with ourselves as well. But what are some of the signs that we need to look out for that would point to us possibly having poor mental health? When do we need to look for help? So these are some of the common ones that we witness in our practice. The first one is sleep disturbance. And by this, we mean being unable to sleep well during the night, being unable to fall asleep, or sleeping too much, that you just want to stay in bed throughout. And that is not normal practice for any human being. So if you find that your sleep patterns have been disrupted, and this has been going on consistently for at least 3 weeks continuously, there could be an issue, and you possibly want to investigate and see what's going on. Another one is weight fluctuations. As we said, that unless you're trying to manipulate your weight, either to lose weight or gain weight, if you find that you are either increasing weight or decreasing without going to the gym, without managing your diet, then there definitely could be something that is disturbing you. And because the mind is such a powerful tool, that when we find ourselves not feeling settled, we'll find that it will have a direct impact on our weight and other parts of our body. Another one is withdrawal from people and activities, things that we generally used to enjoy. And a number of the participants last time also shared that they found themselves withdrawing from people. They didn't want to go for their chamas, they didn't want to go to the church communities that they had, or doing the activities that they enjoyed. If you find that you are consistently and persistently have been isolating yourself from before and up to this point that we currently find ourselves, then that is also a keen indicator of poor mental health. Another one is persistent sadness. And this is sadness that does not lift, no matter what you try and do, whether it is hanging out with people who generally make you happy, or it's watching some videos that could actually make you smile, watching some comedies, and you find yourself consistently and persistently feeling sad since the election period, then there definitely is something that's going on, because by now you should have started adjusting. So persistent sadness is also an indicator of poor mental health. Another common one is relationship conflicts. And because relationships are between more than one person, we'll find that if you are finding yourself consistently getting upset, whether interacting with your children, your spouse, your neighbors, your colleagues, if you find that you're always finding yourself irritated, annoyed with them, then there could be an issue there. And this is simply because you are the one person that is consistent along the relationship continua. So if you find that you go at home, you're in arguments with people, you go to the office, you're in arguments with people, as you're traveling, you're finding yourself conflicting with people, there definitely could be an issue as well. Another one is over-reliance on unhealthy coping strategies. And these are the ones that we looked at the last time. So there's sex, there's drugs, there's alcohol, and there's gambling. And the reason why people choose these things is to mask their true feelings, because these particular things give us temporary release from our normal or the reality that we are currently facing. So that's why you find people going towards having mindless sex with people who possibly they would not, taking drugs to numb their feelings, and the common ones that we find being abused a lot, things like marijuana, prescription tablets, for sleeping pills as well. We've also found codeine, the cough syrup. People have also consistently been taking that as well. Alcohol is another one. You find yourself taking alcohol to numb your pain, or to just help, shift your mood. However, we know some of these things are depressants, so it doesn't do that. Another one is gambling, hoping that possibly the money that I invested, I can be able to get it back through a quick rich scheme. And these are all unhealthy coping strategies that would have a negative impact on your overall health. Another one is physical ailments. And by this, I mean, you find you've got consistent back pains, consistent headaches, your stomach, you're talking about acidity that does not end. If you're finding yourself consistently having these ailments and you've gone to the clinic and there is no solution, then it's possible again that there is something that needs to be processed from your mind. And I'll go back to what I said a bit earlier, that our minds are so powerful that if we do not deal with the emotional state, then the result is that it has a physical manifestation in our bodies. So it's important for us to be aware that if you've got something which has been happening persistently since before the elections, during the elections, after the elections, and has not alleviated, then we may need to investigate further to see how then do we process what is actually going on in your mind. So these are the common ones that we witness. Of course, there are very many more. And I would also encourage some of you to also ask if there's some things that you have also witnessed and you'd like a bit of clarification. Feel free to bring them here and I'll be able to assist as well on that. So something else that I also took us through was what the continuum is when you're going through the grieving process. Because what it is that happened is that we were not prepared for the outcome of the general elections for a number of us. So therefore, that means that there was the element of shock, that how did this happen? I thought I had prepared enough. Did I do good due diligence? What was the feedback I was getting from the ground? So there is the shock element, and it's the first one that people generally experience. Then there's the denial, where you find that you're looking for explanations as to why the outcome was the way it was. And it could range from a number of things that, the election was stolen, there was unfairness, many different things. So there's denial. And there are many ways that people can deal with this. You could say, I'm going to take the process to court. Let us try and see if we can recount and retaliate. So there's denial around that even the people who are around me, my core team, how could they not have known what was going on? What is it? And then there's frustration that, things are different, but I'm angry at the outcome. This is not where I saw myself at this point in the year. I thought I would now be serving the people as an elected member. So there's frustration around that. And then anger also comes with that. And then depression, you start feeling very low because you have to then get yourself to what is currently going on. And the depressive mood can last for a while. And you feel that you don't have energy for anything else because you did not have any other plans. This was the one plan that you had. So if it is taken away, what next? And people stay in this space for a long time, and sometimes they need assistance to be able to transition to the next place. Then the next level is experimentation, where you start accepting that, this is my reality. What then can I do to start moving forward? Life is not over. I need to start either getting back into what I was doing or looking for a new way to engage. Deciding to move forward and saying, I could pick the lessons from my past experience and use it at the next time that I decide to go for elective office. And the other one is integrating yourself and renewing yourself. But one thing that I also want to bring to your attention is that while the continuum has been presented this way, it is not linear. You could start from denial, you go to depression, you go back to anger, you go back again to shock, you come back and say, I want to move forward, you find yourself back. So it is a process that moves back and forth until the point where you decide to make a decision and move forward. So if you found yourself moving back and forth, don't think there's anything wrong with you. No, that is very normal. And this is how this process works when you're going through the process of psychological adjustment. And then we looked at a few coping strategies. And the first one was acceptance. Accept your feelings. I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling betrayed, and it's okay. I did not win, and it is okay. These are the circumstances I find myself. I find myself in debt, and it is okay. First, accept. This is where I am. Then the next thing is to focus on the things that are under your control. In our lives on a daily basis, there are so many things that are happening, but not everything is under my control. One of the things that I'll just say right now that is an easy one is the state of the economy. We are currently going through an economic crunch, and this is not only here, but it is global. How much control do I have in terms of turning the economy around as Wandia? I don't have much control. The control that I have is in the amount of money in my hands and how I spend it. So focus on the things that are under your control and not those that are external. We're also going through a drought. I could sit here and cry about that and very upset, but I can't force the rains to come. What can I do? I could decide to plant trees so that later in future, for future generations, they may not go through this very painful experience that we're going through. So focus on the things that are under your control. Another thing that we talked about is stay connected. I'm a very big proponent of the fact that human beings are relational beings by their very nature. We were not created to live in isolation. We were created to be in connection with each other through relationships. So it's important for us to connect to people, to connect with our family, to connect with our friends, and to choose those we connect with very intentionally and very carefully. And why do I say that? That's because not all relationships are beneficial or positive. So we need to be very careful about the people that we are connecting with, especially when we find ourselves in this very vulnerable space that we currently are. So stay connected. Practice self-care. Take care of yourself. If it means as simple as drinking water in the morning and throughout the day, taking a bath, brushing your teeth, eating a healthy, balanced diet, sleeping enough, take care of yourself. These are the things that add value and add strength and longevity to your life. Walk a bit, do a bit of physical activity. If you're a believer, pray. Practice self-care. And self-care is so specific to people because different people need to do different things to be able to take care of themselves. So practice self-care. Another one is to identify your triggers and minimize your exposure to them. And a number of the ladies at the last session said that there are certain things and places that were triggering them and taking them back as they're trying to move forward. Whether it is when they found themselves moving around in the marketplace or speaking to certain people or watching certain things, they found themselves getting triggered and going backwards and feeling angry and sad and betrayed. So once you identify what your triggers are, then the point is minimize how you interact with them. If there are certain places that you go to and you are feeling that you are not getting support, avoid them. Certain things you watch on TV, like news for a majority part of the time is not positive. There are many things which are very negative on news a lot. So maybe you want to also minimize your exposure to that. And this again is very personal. It's very individual. So identify what your triggers are as a person and limit your exposure to them until the point where you feel that you are strong enough. The next one is to look for meaning and purpose. Because our focus was on coming in and serving the people, that was what our purpose was. That is where we're going to derive our meaning from. And we didn't get it. It is important for us to redefine ourselves, our meaning, and our purpose. Why do I have to wake up every morning? What is the purpose of me moving from point A to point B? It could be your family, it could be your children, it could be your spouse, it could be your business. For everybody, it's different. So we start with those things that are closest to us, and we ensure that we focus on them until they give us enough energy to move on to bigger things. So we start from the micro before expanding to the macro. So these are a few of the coping strategies that we spoke about. Of course, there are others that the ladies shared as well. And let me see. So yes, those are the ones we spoke about. And this then is what I just wanted to share as a recap to what we had discussed. Again, I'll just project those are our numbers in case anybody need to get in touch with us. And then I'll throw it back to Virginia, who will open up the conversation for us to have. Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you so much, Wandia, for that wonderful recap. So we'll just proceed to the Q&A session. Thank you so much for the participants who've also joined us. As we've started with the recap of the previous session. Some of the participants who've joined us had joined us the previous time. So for now, we'll just go back to the Q&A session. And for the participants, if you feel like you want to ask your question, feel free to raise your hand and you can just directly ask the questions. For now, I'll start with some of the questions in the comment section. There's one who's asking, what are the differences between an addiction when dealing with substance abuse and depression? I think she means in terms of coping habits. How do you identify that you're addicted to substance abuse?
No problem. I can start with that one. So there's a very clear distinction between addiction and depression. I don't even think that we can compare them. What I'd rather do is to define what addiction is and how somebody would know that they are going down a slippery slope. Okay. So for addiction, the first thing that I would say, whatever substance it is that you're using to numb your feelings, is use this, what we call cage. The first one, are you trying to cut down? That you say, you know what, today I'm only going to have one drink, and then you find yourself that you cannot stop. If you find that you're not able to control your consumption, put a question mark there. There could be something going on. The next thing you find is that you find yourself getting consistently angry about the amount of substance that you're using. You take it, but you find, I'm getting angry with myself. Why am I not able to control myself? It's not giving me the pleasure. You find yourself getting angry about the amount that you're using and the amount of money that is being spent on that as well. If you find yourself getting angry about your use, put a question mark there. The other one is guilt. If you find yourself guilty about your consumption to the point where you even want to hide from people, you don't want to tell people that you're drinking, you want to create stories around it, you want to do it in hidden spaces, you're putting it in different bottles so that people cannot be able to see, there could also be something going on there. So we say, put a question mark there. And finally, the last thing that we say is, in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, first thing you want to do is take that substance. Definitely put a question mark there. So those are the 4 initial ways that we look at as psychologists to see, what's going on with this particular person. And if they answer yes to any of this, that they're trying to cut down and they're not able to, they find themselves consistently annoyed, they find themselves feeling guilty about their consumption, and they find that they want to take it early in the morning, then there could be an addiction that is happening there. So that's how we define addiction. Depression is consistent, persistent feeling of sadness, hopelessness, withdrawing from people, inability to sleep well for 3 weeks minimum, 3 weeks continuously. And if anybody was to come to us and were to screen them, would be looking to see that this has been persistently happening. Not that one day in the morning I felt happy, then in the evening I felt sad. Then the next day I felt sad, but then I felt happy. That is not how we define clinical depression. Depression, it has to be consistent, persistent, despite you trying to alleviate that feeling of sadness. So those are the 2 distinct definitions of what addiction and depression is. Back to you, Virginia.
Thank you so much for that. There's a participant who's asking if you can share the last slide of the contact. She's not yet recorded the contact, so kindly you can share that with us. And while you're doing so, there's a participant who's asking how to detach from bad coping habits.
Okay, thank you for that. So how does anybody detach from bad coping habits? The first one is in recognizing that it is a bad coping habit and you want to put some distance between that particular habit and yourself. So it is accepting that there's actually a problem and this thing is not serving me. Fine. So then for different people, it needs different strategies. For some people, they are able to just say, you know what, I'm stopping right now. I'm not doing that thing again. And they stop, cold turkey. For other people, it has to be a slow, gradual process, and that's okay. So then you need to figure out if my coping strategy is taking sleeping pills at night, so to enable me to sleep, and I'm finding that I've become overly dependent on them, the first thing is to possibly see a doctor who can help you then taper off or to slow or to minimize your interaction with that drug. Because if you try and do it cold turkey, there will definitely be an impact. If it is something else like gambling, you can also say, when do I normally gamble? Is it a specific time of day? Is it a specific time in the month? You know when that day is, you know when that time is, and then you try and replace that habit with something else. So it's recognizing, when am I most vulnerable to this particular habit? Is it at the end of the workday? Is it in the beginning? What else can I bring in here to be able to replace that particular habit? Another one is finding an accountability partner, somebody who you can speak to and say, you know what, I'm trying to change this particular habit. I find myself getting caught up in promiscuous behavior. I find myself just wanting to sleep with anybody, and I'm not able to control myself. Allow me to call you when I feel like I want to do something like that, and then you can support me. So also look for somebody that you can also speak to, who can then support you as you're going through that as well. So that is generally what the process is. If you try those ones that I have mentioned and you find that you're not being able to detach from that, then possibly it's time for you to reach out to one of us as psychologists to be able to support you on that journey. Remember, this is very, very unique to each and every person. So these things I'm sharing here are very general, but this is a good place to begin. Put some distance between you and that thing. Try and fill that particular space with something else. Look for an accountability partner, and over and above that, be patient with yourself. You did not become addicted or reliant on that particular thing in one day. So allow yourself time to also stop being reliant on it. So if you do well in 2 days, then one day you slip up, don't say, oh no, all hope is lost. Oh my goodness, I'm damned for the rest of my life. No, no, no. Dust yourself off and try again tomorrow. Try again until the point where you say, you know what, I actually can't do it on my own. I may need professional help. Back to you, Virginia.
Thank you so much for that. Great feedback. Getting back to the Q&A, let me see if there's any questions from our participants. There's someone who's asking, what do I do if I feel like I hate the community for lying to me all through, and they still come to me for help with their issues? So I think this is an aspirant who's having the community still approaching her to be able to assist them, but she feels like she hates them, I think also because of the loss. So she's asking how is she able to deal with that or act sensibly while she's being approached by the community.
Okay, thank you for that question. And yes, it is a very sensitive time. And the fact that these same people who you are hoping would put you into that elected position did not, and are still coming to you, of course, it can evoke emotions of anger. So there's nothing wrong with you feeling that particular anger. And I'll share two possible ways that you can be able to manage this. And one is what one of the aspirants said last time. She said, you know what, I just left that community for a while. If you have got the ability to change your geographical location for a period, leave. However, if you do not have that ability to leave that geographical location, what you can do is to respectfully point them to look or to consult with the elected official, because really you are not in a position to help them. They elected somebody else, so it is no longer your burden. So just say, unfortunately, I can't be able to assist you. Why don't you say, go to so-and-so's office, and you mention that particular person by name. It is no longer your responsibility. So just respectfully point them to the right office. And the reason I'm using the word respectfully, and so that you don't come out with the anger, is because the fact that you failed this particular election doesn't mean that you're not going to try again. So these are the same people who you'll need to go back to at some point. So you do not want to antagonize them. You don't want to be too forceful with them. It's just that you want to push them into the right place and say, you know what, unfortunately, I can't help you. If I had gotten into the office, I could have assisted, but right now I don't have the resources. So kindly go and see so-and-so who can be able to assist you. Back to you, Virginia.
There's a participant who's telling us that she's thanking us. She's saying, thank you, FIDA, for speaking to our lives, especially at this time when most of us are undergoing this period of acceptance and healing. And there's also another one who's saying that whatever we've talked about is what she went through, especially the shock. It was very bad. And do you feel as if when dealing with shock, is it a different treatment, or can you still be able to handle it without having to seek medication?
Okay, thank you for that question. And yes, here's the thing. The only time anybody would need medication or clinical assistance is when you find that you're not coping. And how are you able to tell you're not coping? It is some of the things that I had mentioned. But to just clarify it and to break it down better, each of us does many things, or rather we wear many hats in our lives. We are mothers, we are sisters, we are wives, we are workers, we are aunties. We've got very many roles that we do as women. If you find that you are unable to discharge any of these duties effectively or at all, there could be an issue. But if you find that, you know what, I'm actually being able to gradually get back into it, then it's okay. That means you are coping well and you're being able to move forward. I would not want to imagine or to even lie that you will move from 0 to 100, because shock also takes time to wear off. So be patient with yourself, but just keep rating yourself. How am I interacting with my family? How am I interacting with my friends? Am I being able to get into work? If I'm being able to do these things slowly, progressively, then it's actually okay. Then you're on the right track. You don't have to change anything about it. Just be patient with yourself and keep moving forward. As a practicing psychologist, one of the things that I'm also very keen on is that we do not go for medication as our first resort. I had mentioned it at the last session, and I think I'll mention it again here just for clarity, is that as psychologists, we do not work alone. We work with other mental health professionals. We work with psychiatrists. And psychiatrists, by the very definition, are medical doctors first. So they are the ones who are licensed to prescribe medication. So if you came to me and I did my assessment and I tried to work with you and I say you're not progressing, then and only then would I then send you to see a psychiatrist who would then prescribe medication. But it is never our first point of call. We never go there as our first result or our first solution. We try and work with you with the other skills that we have. And in the event we see that your depressive symptoms are not lessening, we find that also the anxiety that you're experiencing is not alleviating despite everything that we are doing in our therapy sessions, then we would send you to see a psychiatrist, and I would let them know that this is what I'm suspecting this person is going on with. Kindly prescribe medication to them. Medication would then be prescribed and then you'd be sent back to us to continue working. So I want to ensure that the participants understand that medication is never the first point of healing that we go for. It is one of the last ones. When we've tried everything else, then we take you for medication. And medication is not meant to be permanent. It's just meant to be for a short period of time as you heal. And even the psychiatrists that we work with will then work with you, systematically reducing the dosage. So my advice, and this is what I'm saying, is never go for medication first, because there are possibilities that other things could arise out of taking medication. And one of the key things is that you could find yourself getting addicted to it and not having the adequate coping skills to manage that addiction. I hope I have answered that question. Back to you, Virginia.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. There's a participant, Flora, she's asking, during elections and campaigns, I realized that even my close family members were against me and did not support me. Since then, I felt very bad. I feel betrayed by my own family and friends. I have not discussed this with anyone so far, and I have also stopped communication with members of the family. What can I do?
Oh, wow. Thank you for that. That's a very sensitive thing that the person has just shared, and I just want to commend them for that. The people who we assume would be in our corner, our family and our friends, when we find that they are actually the ones who are bringing us down, it can cause a lot of disillusionment in life. It can make us feel that we are alone. And one of the things that I've said is that human beings are meant to be in relationship. So what I would encourage this person to do first and foremost is to do an evaluation from the point where the elections happened to where they are today. Is there anybody, any one person that they can find that they say, this person stood with me, even if it's just one person? If they're able to find that one person, then let us count that one person as a friend, as we also reevaluate how we interact with our other people, family, and friends. This will not be an easy process, and you may actually need the support of a psychologist or a counselor to help you through that. Because the betrayal by family, the betrayal by friends is one that cuts so deep, because the people who know us, they know us to our deepest core. So when you find that they are not there with us, they're not supportive of us, it leaves us feeling quite disillusioned. For this particular person, I'd encourage, just do an evaluation and look at the people who you considered friends, the people who you consider family. Is there any one person in that space who has reached out to you, who is following up with you, who you still consider to be somebody who is in your corner? If there is, then let's say that will be the person that will continue interacting with. Over and above that, I would encourage this person to see a counselor or a psychologist who will help them develop the skills and to start moving forward. We can't change family, unfortunately. Blood is blood. There are family from birth until the point that we exit, but we can choose who our friends are. And we can also choose how we interact with these people. If these people clearly betrayed me, then why would I want to give of myself a lot when they don't have my best interest at heart? That means I have to change how I interact with them. I hope that has been helpful. If not, I'll ask her to ask a lead-up question, and I'll be able to respond to that. Back to you.
Thank you so much. For our participants, feel free to raise your hand so you can ask a live question. And one of the participants is asking from Jane, she's saying, I stayed in denial for 2 weeks and attended church normally. On the third week, the loss hit. I locked myself and kept away from friends, and I'm still healing. So my question after coming from this would be, is it okay or is it safe to keep to yourself while undergoing depression?
Okay, thank you for that. I would say that it is okay to take some time to yourself to heal. What I was pointing out in terms of withdrawal from people is for an extended period of time. The fact that you were able to go about your activities for a number of weeks, for about 2 weeks before then withdrawing, was also okay. My question would be, from that time when you've withdrawn, how long has it been? If you've been in a state of withdrawal from that particular time when the elections happened to now, that would not be okay. That would be a sign that something needs to be attended to. If it was just for a short period of time, that's okay. But if it is from that particular time to date, that's somebody who needs a bit of more assistance.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And also, you had mentioned something about trigger situations. In a situation where an aspirant finds themselves in an environment where a trigger is, where they're triggered to react in a certain way, is there maybe quick tips that you can give to them to be able to deal with that situation?
Okay, thank you for that question. And this is what I would suggest. If possible, remove yourself from the trigger situation as fast as possible. That's the first one. In the event that you're not able to move away, because sometimes you'll find that you actually can't move away from the trigger situation, then how do I cope? And one of the things that we always tell people is to do this. Listen to your breathing. Pay attention. So you're taking all your attention back inwards and listen to your breathing. Try and control that. Focus on it and just say, you know what, I'll count in. Count, hold your breath for 3, release for 3. Count for 3, release for 3. And what is that supposed to do? It's supposed to distract you from that particular trigger. But the first immediate thing that we say, if possible, remove yourself from that trigger situation. And that's when I gave the example of something like, you find news is on that's triggering you, put off the TV. That's the first one. If it's not, or if you can't put off the TV, walk out of the room. So try and remove yourself from that trigger situation. If not, focus on your breathing. Take deep breaths in, deep breaths out. And as you're breathing in and out, try and bring to your mind something that gives you joy, something that gives you peace. For different people, it's different things. It could be your child. It could be a place that you've visited. It could be something that you've experienced. Focus on that thing as you're breathing in and out, as you're breathing in and out, and allow yourself to calm down until that trigger is managed. But that is only if you cannot remove yourself from the trigger situation. If you can remove yourself from that situation as soon as possible. Back to you.
Thank you. And also for when dealing with maybe say issues on anxiety, is anxiety a situation where it reoccurs or is something that happens maybe after a period comes back again, or it can be healed and completely done with?
So anxiety, people experience, thank you for that question. So people experience anxiety in different situations. And again, the triggers could be different. And the first thing is to understand why or when do I feel myself experiencing anxiety? And what is anxiety? It means that there's rapid breathing, you're feeling insecure, you're feeling fear, your stomach is starting to churn. Those are some of the symptoms that could point to anxiety. So then we look at what are the trigger situations. What is it that made your body react in that way? Because you definitely are not feeling safe for your body to react like that. So again, minimize your interaction with that thing. Or two, prepare yourself before you go into that. And what do I mean by this? There's certain times that you'll find anybody or some people who have experienced road traffic accidents, when they go into and it happened possibly when they're traveling in a public vehicle or personal car, but when they get into a car, they find that they are very heightened and they're hyper alert. They're looking up and about. So if you find that you went through an accident and you're trying to get back into being able to move without being triggered, is to prepare your mind before getting into the car. Prepare your mind before your journey. And for different people, it's different things. For some people, it could be, you know what, I'll take some chamomile tea. For somebody else, I will do a workout and then I will listen to music and then I'll just allow myself to listen to my breathing again. As I said, breathing in and out, controlling your breathing, being aware of your breathing as you're in that process. And then over and above that, reciting or telling yourself words that calm you, that you know what, I am okay, I am safe, I am okay, I am safe, all is well, all is well. So anxiety happens to different people at different times. It can be managed and it can also be overcome depending on the different things that we have at our disposal in terms of overcoming specific stressors. Back to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that feedback. Just a quick one. Is it possible when you're dealing with, let's say, like a counselor, is it advisable to still maintain the same counselor, or you can still be able to interact with different counselors in the process of healing?
Okay, thank you for that question. So I'll just give an overview of how the counseling process actually works. And this is what I normally tell the clients. First and foremost, the process is about you as the person coming for help. It's not about Wandia as the psychologist. It's always about my client. So my client is coming in for therapy. I tell them that if you feel that you cannot trust Wandia or you're not feeling safe in my space, feel free to let me know and I'll refer you to somebody else, because the relationship is based on trust. If you can't trust me, we can't work. So that is part one. It's always about you. Always remember, you are not at the mercy of the therapist. You are the client. The client is king in this therapeutic relationship. If you find that the counselor that you're seeing is showing you that the ones who are over you, that is a relationship that will not work for you. And I'd advise you to look for somebody else right there and then. Two, the second question, the question that you've asked is, would you advise somebody to keep moving from therapist to therapist? It would not be advisable to do that. And I will answer it this way. Why? Once you've formed a relationship with a therapist and I've gotten your history, then you want to work with me, because each time you come into session, you don't have to start your story from very far ago. I already have your file. I already know what it is that you're working on. However, this is what I would advise for anybody who wants to experience different types of therapy. Say I'm going to go and see Wandia and I'm going to work on this particular issue with Wandia. Once I finish this issue with Wandia, I'll go to a different therapist. But if you keep moving from therapist to therapist, you'll never get the adequate help. You need to allow yourself to develop a full relationship with the therapist and to work through to be able to come out on the other side successfully. So stick with one. Once you find a good one, stick with that person until you get the healing for that particular issue that has taken you there.
Thank you so much. I will just allow maybe the participants, if there's someone who wants to ask a live question, I can give you a few minutes for you to proceed. There's someone who wants to ask a question. Virginia Gadara, please proceed.
Hi guys.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm Virginia Gadara.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I wanted to find out, sometime you can go to a therapist and realize that okay, I don't know if we self-diagnose or something, but you realize like maybe they don't get you, you're not really, you feel like they don't understand your issues. is it good to like just give yourself time until you finish all the sessions, or can you change and probably keep going to different therapists until you feel like they understand what your problems are?
Okay, thank you for that question, Virginia. Okay, so this is what I would advise for somebody who is seeing a therapist as not feeling understood. Look for another therapist. As I said, you're the one who's king in this relationship. It's about you. If you're not feeling understood by that therapist, and you've tried session 2, it's not working. Session 3 is still not working. Look for another therapist. Look for somebody else who understands you. If you find that you have gone to maybe 7 or 8 therapists, and you still have not gotten what it is that you're looking for, then that's the point I would say, okay, let us take a step back and try and understand how is it that no therapist is understanding me? Is it me who's not willing to do the work and understand what the issues could be? But my point would still go back to the point that you are the one who needs to get that help. So if you find that your therapist is not understanding you, look for another one. Look for another one. Look for another one. But if you find you have reached therapist 7 and you're still not getting understood, then maybe you want to stick with that 7th therapist to find out, okay, this is exactly what I'm feeling. How then do you assist me? So do not feel shy to keep moving around until you find somebody who understands you.
Thank you so much for that. There's a participant who's asking, how do you deal with stigma whereby when you tell someone or the community knows that you're seeking mental help, they start calling you names?
Okay, thank you for that question. So unfortunately, mental health is still stigmatized in our context. And it's something that we also experience as the ones who provide the care. So what I tell people is this, and hopefully it is going to answer your question. I do not live in a bubble. I live in the community. And the people who come to see me for therapy, I also see them sometimes. I could bump into them in the supermarket. I could bump into them at a friend's wedding. I could bump into them anywhere in life. And this is exactly what I tell them. I tell them, you know what? My community knows what I do for a living. They know that I'm a therapist. In the event you bump into me in public and you don't feel like you want to talk to me because you don't want people to know that you're seeing me as a therapist, don't come and say hi to me. I will not take any offense. I'll see you at our next session. What am I trying to say? You can keep that process confidential. You don't have to tell people about it, especially if it's people who are very close-minded. So that is the assurance that we give our clients. We say, yeah, we will see you in life in Nairobi. We'll move around here. But I will not extend myself to you unless you approach me, because I do not want to encroach in your personal space. My name is Wandia and I'm a psychologist. So I would not want to encroach in your space if people don't know that you're seeing a therapist. So be careful with the people that you're sharing with. If they're not open-minded, don't tell them you're going for therapy. You go for therapy because it is helping you, but don't have to share with everybody. Only share with those who you know would understand and be supportive of your journey.
Thank you so much. One of the participants says, thank you. She had asked a question previously. She says, thank you for that is well answered. There's one who's saying, for continuously, how will you be helping us? I'm waiting your contact. I think that's a question for us personally, but she was asking for how long would we continue with the sessions. Not to worry, once we plan for another session, we will let you know. Let me see, there's one participant who's raised her hand. Virginia, you can proceed.
Yeah, there's a situation like you're with a therapist, and at some point during your sessions, while she's or he or she is unwrapping now to understand what your issues are, they start getting a bit sensitive, and you start feeling kind of uncomfortable. Like sometimes they give even assignments, like maybe they realize you're having issues with your parents or something, and they give you an assignment that you need to go and have a conversation probably with your mother or something like that. And you start feeling like you're not ready for that. But according to the therapist, they feel like that is where you need to start so that you can get the healing or whatever it is. Are you advised to maybe drop out and give yourself time until you're ready to do that? Or what exactly should you do when the session start getting sensitive and you're feeling like you're not ready to face your fears?
Okay, thank you, Virginia, for that follow-up question. And this is the way I'll respond to you, the same way I respond to my clients. I give my clients homework, and I give my clients homework all the time. And as I'm contracting with my clients, I tell them this, that some of the homework that I'll give you will be very difficult. And if you find that the homework is very difficult, one, don't run away from therapy. Come for the next session and tell me, you know what, Wandia, I was not able to do that homework. And it's okay. And we'll explore and try and understand why were you not able to do that work. Now, for this particular example that you've given, that you're being given an assignment to talk to your parents, you're not feeling ready. And the therapist is pushing on that. If it was me who was in that place, I'd bring you back and then we would unpack what it means to do that homework and why you're feeling very scared about it. I would prepare you to do that assignment. So not just leave you and keep telling you, go until you finish. No. You come and let's talk about it. And there are also situations where clients would say, and I'll pick it out as I'm doing my intake interview, that possibly there's a case of sexual abuse, or there's a case of infidelity, or whatever, something very major in their life. And I know we need to process it in therapy. And I'll tell them this, I have picked this, and we're going to discuss this, and the other. And they may tell me, you know what, I'm not ready to discuss this. And I'll say, no problem. So we continue working on other things. And every so often I come back and say, are you ready to talk about this? If they say no, I say, no problem. And we keep moving. And I remember there's one client who came to see me, and because she was coming to me through her employer, they used to be given 5 sessions for therapy sessions. You know, we did the entire 5 sessions, yet she had come to me because of a case of sexual abuse. We did the entire 5 sessions and she didn't feel ready. And I was okay with that. We worked on many other things. But at the end, she said, okay, I think I'm going to ask for more sessions to come back and process. So we started working on the sexual abuse in session 6. But we had worked so much from session 1 to 5 to get her ready to have that particular conversation. So what am I saying? Again, the client is king. So we would prepare you to have those very difficult conversations, either within the therapeutic process, or if it is part of your healing that you need to go and have a conversation with your parents. I would prepare you. We should prepare you to have that conversation. Avoiding it and canceling and running away from the therapy will not assist you, because we identified there's a problem here that needs to be resolved. So until you are able to resolve it, you'll find yourself consistently in that problem. So I encourage you, go back and try and have a conversation around it and see how you can best then have a conversation with your parents. Over to you, Virginia.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Wandia. There's a participant who says it is imperative to accept that different people have different levels of stress tolerance, and mental health has been stigmatized so much that most people do not speak out. So she's asking and urging the rest to be able to take care of themselves. There's one who says she was involved in an accident, and after the accident, she locked herself in the room until she got paralyzed on her left side. So she's attending physio rehabilitation, and she still feels heavy about the situation, and it was connected to the political rallies. So I don't know if maybe you have something you'd like to add to that.
Wow, thank you for that. And I want to first of all say sorry to the person who went through that and got paralyzed. As they're going through the rehabilitation for the physical side of their ailments, I would encourage them to also get psychological support. So it would be important for them to be able to go through counseling to get the healing that they need, so that they can move on and live a full life. Because what I'm hearing is that hiding away has not served them. It has not served them physically, and I also want to bet it has not served them emotionally as well. So as soon as possible, I would encourage them to reach out and start working with a trained counselor or therapist.
Thank you. And there's another one that says, are there permanent cures for mental health problems? Is there a way one person can personally, or I mean permanently heal from any mental disorders?
Okay, so this is how I don't respond to that question, because it's a very general question. There are certain things that you can actually overcome and move on. And there are certain conditions that you just learn to live with in life. And these are clinical issues. Like we're talking about schizophrenia, we're talking about bipolar. These things are managed with medication and psychotherapy. So there's no permanent cure. You just learn to live with them. You're given the tools, you're given the support to be able to live with them. And I'm not saying that there's nothing like miracles. Miracles can happen, but from a practicing perspective, there are some things that you just learn to live with. And on the other hand, there are things that, you get the solutions to, and you move on to the next thing.
Okay, thank you. And I'd just like to pick your mind on an issue. I had asked one of my good friends, and we were debating about the fact that you can use substance abuse for some time, and it can actually help you deal with mental issues. Do you agree that if, for example, someone was abusing alcohol or weed, do you think this is something that can, after some time, they can be able to heal and proceed, or that's just a way of lying to themselves?
Thank you for that question. Very nice. Now, here is the thing. I will not tell you no. Why would I not tell you no? Because you may tell me that, you know what, but I tried it and it worked for me. Because human beings are very different in their nature. So who am I to tell you no? However, as a practicing psychologist, there is so much risk in that I would never advocate for it. Number one, alcohol is a depressant. You know, people take alcohol so they can feel good and happy. But alcohol is a depressant. Beer one, you'll be very okay. Beer two, you start going down, down, down. So you find yourself even deeper, feeling worse about a situation than you felt. And this is one thing I always tell my clients when they come here. If you've had a very heavy session, please don't go drink alcohol, because alcohol is a depressant. You will find yourself at the bottom. If you found it's a very heavy session, go and do something that uplifts you. So alcohol does not solve problems. If anything, it's also draining from you. Again, it's money that is being used on that. Weed, on the other hand, you know, it's one of the substances that is being used a lot with the youth. And the youth, I would say, people below the age of, is it what, 35 or 45? What
35,
is the age?
yes, 35.
Yes, those ones are using weed a lot. And then even more are the young ones, the ones who are teenagers up to the age of, you know, the 35, they're using it a lot. And the saddest thing is that the human brain develops to the age of 25. So somebody who is using weed, and these are the very young ones I'm talking about, their brain is hampered from developing. So it's very risky. And then weed, again, has a way of making you like a cabbage. That's the best way to put it in layman's terms. It makes you like a cabbage to the point where you can't even be able to function. So alcohol, drugs, coping, saying it's going to help me, no.
It's
No,
difficult.
I would never go for it.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And also, just to also ask a follow-up question, in a situation where an aspirant is dealing with a mental health issue, and she's a married aspirant, of course, now this can also trickle down to the relationship she has with her spouse. So do you feel, when it comes to that situation, that even if she seeks medical help, do you think it is wise to have maybe, say, like them going for a couple session, or if she does the session by herself, she can still manage to build up the marriage?
Okay, thank you for that question. So I would be imagining, based on the way you phrased the question, that the reason why this lady is coming for therapy is because of the loss that she went through. If it is because of the loss that she went through, then the question would be, how did that loss impact their marriage? Did it mean that there was a loss of finances? Does the husband blame her for that? You know, did the sexual relationship also go down? All those kind of things. If there is a connection and they've never been able to have an open conversation about that, then it would be imperative that they go for therapy together. I remember you gave me an opportunity to speak to the aspirants sometime last year. And one of the things was that they needed to have clear, candid, open conversations with their communities, meaning their family and their children, to look at both sides. In the event that we win, how does that impact our life? In the event that I lose, how does that impact our lives? So now that people have actually lost, remember that conversation we had? So this is the outcomes. So this is how we're supposed to move forward. So my suggestion would be this: the lady goes for therapy on her own first and foremost. If she finds that the marital situation is still not improving, then the husband can be brought on board, but not as at the very beginning. We first allow the lady to go through the process because she's the one who experienced that loss herself. And then if you find that the relationship is still not improving, even after having conversations with the husband and the children, then the husband can be brought in for therapy as well.
Okay, thank you. And one of our participants, Flora, had raised her hand. So Flora, are you present? You can proceed.
Yes, please. I wanted to ask our therapist. There is a situation whereby I have observed most of us women aspirants or women candidates, after we lost, we suffered a lot of loss, especially financially. And like we just said, some of us, even our families, we had challenges with our marriages and such like things. We saw a case of one of us, of a female aspirant in Kilifi, who was caught with a pastor having sex in a bush, so that they can be, so that the pastor can try to support her financially to restore back the loss that she lost during elections. And this is just one case, but several cases are happening down here, whereby women are unable to went just like that. And so, some of us are even getting a lot of challenge to accept that fact that we cannot retrieve, we cannot bring back the money again. And so we have to fight, we have to fight the battle again. So I don't know, as a therapist, can we visit them, or what do we do?
Sorry, Flora, I didn't hear the last part. What was the last part? You said as a therapist. I didn't get the last part. Please come again.
She was asking, Flora, are you still around? She was asking as a therapist. Okay, kindly proceed, Flora.
Now, okay, let me speak in Kiswahili.
That's okay.
Kina mama wengi tumetumia fedha nyingi sana kwa campaigns, na baadhi yetu the source maybe came from our families, from our husbands, or maybe from zingine tulikopa, na unakuta baada hivyo inakuwa ngumu kwa kina mama kuaccept kwamba hii fedha ilienda tu hivyo. So we have to find again, we have to find some other ways to pay back the loans. And to some extent, you realize some of us tumejipata kwenye scandals. Like there was a case in Kilifi, mama moja ambaye ni aspirant amepatikana mahali kwenye pamoja na pastor amemwambia kwamba atamuombea fedha zake zirudi, huenda pia atamsaidia. Such cases are happening that gender biased, gender based related, and you realize women cannot control that. Some of us are even they have walked away from their families, trying to restore back their dignity and such like things. Do we visit a counselor in such a situation? And now, what will the counselor? Because what we do, what is suffering is the financial consequence. What do we do?
Okay, thank you, Flora, for that question, and I hope I've been able to get it right. But what I'm hearing, and Virginia, you could correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're trying to understand or look for solutions to deal with the financial loss.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so great. If that is the question, then this is it. When we're dealing with cases where there's denial, first of all, what I'm hearing is there's denial that, you know what, this could not have happened, and there could be a quick way to restore it, because the particular case that you have said is that the lady got entangled with that person, hoping that they're going to restore either the win or the money. And if you're looking at it from a rational perspective, we know that can't happen. There's no way anybody is going to come and, you know, wave a magic wand and give you the seat that has already been declared, has already been won by somebody else. So that's the first thing. And the next thing is that there's nothing like a get-rich-quick scheme. Remember when we talked about poor coping strategies? And one of them is gambling. So what these people are doing is they're gambling, and they're gambling not only with their lives, but also with the well-being of their family, because these are married women, and they're also gambling with their health, and they're putting themselves in positions where people are preying on them, and people can smell when you're vulnerable. So then what is it that these people need to do? First and foremost is to accept that actually the loss happened. And the acceptance is so painful because, as you've said, there are losses, there are loans that need to be repaid. How do I start moving forward when there are loans that need to be paid? And one of the things that we tell people is accept how bad that loss is. Put it down on paper. How much money do I owe and who do I owe? Tabulate it. Maybe I owe 1 million shillings. And then in that list of the people that I owe, there are those who are very pressing. You know, I think loan sharks are the worst people to owe money. Loan sharks need to be paid off like immediately. So it is to figure out how then would I be able to dispense that particular loan. So you're looking at my assets. Is there anything that I can sell to be able to release that pressure? And then also talking to the people that you owe money and say, hey, you know what happened? This is exactly it. I don't have money currently, but I intend to pay you as I move forward. So number one is accepting that this is what it is. And acceptance is in tabulation. This is the loss. I owe 1.6 million. Be very clear how much money you owe. And then tabulate in terms of emergency. Who are the most significant people that I need to pay off first? And then have a conversation with them. The reason why people come after us is because we disappear with their money. We don't tell them that, hey, you know, I actually owe you money, but I don't have. Have a conversation, tell them, you saw what happened. This is my plan. I intend to pay. Can we revisit every month? I'll be giving you a status. People just want to be told what you're planning to do with that loan that you have from them. So that's what it is. And then look for somebody who is in your ecosystem, somebody who is in your circle, who can advise you very candidly and be very open and honest with you. Because what I'm hearing is that if you speak to somebody who is, you know, I want to say has got a good mind on their head, they will tell you, you know what, there's no way anybody can pray for you right now and you get appointed into that seat that you're in for. It won't happen. And there's no way anybody is going to sleep with you and give you money, because it also won't happen. And you risk losing so much more. So the question is, stop digging. Now you've already gotten here. Let's stop digging the hole. How do we start looking for our way out? If you don't have that person in your community, then we look for those resources. There are financial consultants out there. There are psychologists, there are counselors like us who would be able to just say, okay, let's look at where you are. And then these are the steps you need to start taking. And remember to talk. Talk to the people that you owe money. People always want to know, how do you plan on paying? And you tell them, let's keep revisiting every month. Right now, I don't have. And then you just break it down for them. I hope that has been helpful. Back to you, Virginia.
Thank you so much for that. Let me check the chat for any questions. There's someone who says, I humbly request if FIDA can intervene by approaching my party leadership to give me a chance. She was nominated in the list. However, she was not in the final list that was gazetted by IEBC. And in relation to that, I will kindly request that you call our EDR line. Our EDR line is Election Dispute Resolution Line. If you are listening and you want to take down the number, I can just read it out loud. It's 0794 989 999. 0794 989 999. 899 actually, 899. So I'll just make sure it is listed in the chat so that you can also be able to get it. And as we proceed, I'd seen a question from JK in the chat section. She'd asked a bit earlier, a bit previously, she'd said, sometimes you stepped down with a promise that you'll be nominated or be given a job, then it does not happen, and you see the people on TV all the time, and it is painful, and the anger, does it ever end? I have some youth who are struggling with this, and how can they be able to overcome that?
Okay, thank you for that question. So what I'm understanding from that particular question is that they were asked to do something with the promise that something would be given to them, but it did not happen. How do you deal with that? Again, it's accepting that, you know what, I was lied to. I was actually lied to by these people, that they said, if I do this, this is what is going to happen. So number one is acceptance. Acceptance that you are lied to. The next thing is to avoid those triggers. Is to avoid that, you know what, every time I see these guys on TV who told me to do a certain thing and have not delivered, it makes me really angry. So I'm done with watching TV and listening to news. So those are the first two key things that I would say. One, accept that this is what the situation is. I was actually lied to. And then the next one is to avoid the triggers. And the other one is to, what lessons can I learn from this process? What can I learn? So maybe there is something to learn from that. And I don't know how it works because I am not in, I don't run for elective positions. But if you are requested by someone to do something, is it possible for us to have an agreement, which then I can bind you to? Is it possible? Because, you know, this gentleman's agreement doesn't work and you can't take it to any court. But what if we have an agreement? You know, like the way if you want to buy a car and then you take a loan from the bank, they always ask you to bring something that they can hold on to. Is it possible the same thing? You ask me to do something so that you can, so what am I holding as guarantee? And in the event you don't do that, then this is what I'm going to hold on to. I don't know if it's possible. So what am I saying? Acceptance, this is what it is, minimize the triggers, and then look for lessons to learn, because you're going to continue experiencing many such challenging situations in life. And what we're meant to do is to learn so that we don't find ourselves in the same place again. So accept, avoid triggers, and what lessons can I learn from this process? Thank you.
There's a participant who's asking, she'd asked about the women, FIDA Kenya going to, my suggestion is that it's good if FIDA can go down to the wards to address women aspirants who tried for MCAs, MPs, and even governors, for they're really suffering silently and require therapy on how to manage politics. You say they get depressed after realizing the resources they used and yielded no fruits. So as I previously mentioned, kindly reach out to 0794 949 899. It's on the chat. It's the election dispute resolution line for FIDA, whereby we are able to give or at least assist with psychosocial support for our women aspirants. So for those you may know who are dealing with it, also spread the word to the community, let them be able to reach out to that number, and we can be able to see how we can offer psychosocial support to them. For participants, also remember, if you do want to ask a live question, kindly just raise your hand and you shall be selected. And then there's a participant who's asking, how do you walk away from addiction, and what are the steps that one can use to be able to do that?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think that one was answered a little bit earlier. When you're moving.
Sorry to interrupt. He finishes by saying, are the steps different from one type of addiction to another?
Okay, no, they're all the same. They're generally all the same. Addiction is addiction, whether it is sex addiction, whether it is addiction to phone, whether it's addiction to alcohol, the steps are all the same. And addiction is a disease of the brain. So the steps are the same. And what I would encourage somebody to do, once you understand or you feel that you could be addicted to something, whatever it is, whatever addiction it is that you try on your own to break the addiction. As I've said, some people could be lucky enough that they're able to stop cold turkey. And they'll say, like, from today onwards, I'm not taking any alcohol. From today onwards, I'm not gambling. And they stop. There are people who actually do that. But for the majority of the people, it's not that clear cut. People need a process. They need time to be able to go through it. So it is, what I said again, is identifying that indeed I have got a problem, identifying the times when I'm most vulnerable to addictive behavior, and allowing somebody to support me through that process. And also, since I've understood when I'm most vulnerable, bringing something into that time to fill in that particular time when I am most vulnerable. Because when I'm going home from work and I feel like, that's when I want to go in for a drink, maybe I change my routine. If I wake up in the morning and I put on the news, maybe I stop watching the news. And then also looking for somebody to have hold accountable. And I've also said it's a journey. So be patient with yourself as you're trying to break the addiction. If you find that you're not able to make progress, then it's time to look for professional support and professional help. And that is where we exist, to be able to support you through that. There's even online forums, I believe, that were formed where you can get support from other Alcoholics Anonymous or the addiction spaces as well. So there is support there. Try on your own. If you get stuck, there's always help out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's also a participant. She's saying, now that elections are over, is it right to openly advise aspirants not to vie when they don't have enough money? Because currently the biggest trigger to stress is the loss of the little finances that they used.
Thank you for that question. And again, I'm happy that I sat in that forum at Safari Park, where the other ladies, politicians who have been in that space for very many years, advise the people that, what, these are the things that you are bound to lose. So when you enter in this space, be very aware. Don't put in all your eggs into one basket, because in the event you don't win, then what happens? So to answer your question is this: now that you have understood the risk and you're feeling the pain, definitely advise others. Definitely advise others. And maybe they will listen as well. Maybe they will listen. If they don't listen, then I guess then it's a painful lesson. But yes, feel free to share your experiences with others as well. It also helps you in the healing process. Back to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. There's a participant, Lucy. Lucy, feel free to ask your question. Kindly unmute and proceed. Lucy, are you with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you
kindly
so
proceed.
much for your sharing. I just have some questions. Well, I
Okay.
vied for MP position at Kajiado North, and I feel, well, one of the challenges I have is like I keep going forth and back, you know, like one of the things actually really disturbing me is I sold some land because I didn't want to do a harambe. So I sold some land and I feel guilty about that because probably that would still be family land I could give my children. And here I am, I've not gotten the position. And somebody said there's the financial bit, you find you still have loans because we tried not to give handouts, but you still find it is very expensive. Campaigning in Kenya is very, very expensive. So how does one go over that, the financial loss and that feeling of regret? I should not have maybe sold that land. Maybe I'd have left it now to my kids. And then how does one move forward from that? And then another thing I have found is the community. I just don't quite know how to face them. Sometimes I'll make a joke of it. You lied to me that you're going to vote for me. Sometimes I don't want to face them. And so there's that. How do you handle that community? And then going forward, I want to know is, because we realized as women, it's very, very expensive. So going forward, and one of the problems many women have actually is that resources are owned by men. Even if it is land, it's owned by men. Are there things organizations like FIDA will do to support women financially? Because I think that's where women miss it. Because like I just said, it is very expensive. The mobilizing, even if it is just transport, it is just lunch. People expect money at every corner, even if it's your PA system or whatever. So yeah, there are resources going forward. Are there organizations, maybe FIDA can see how they can get in touch with, that can help candidates in the future? Because I think that is where women are losing it. And like I've just said, like now when you have sold a piece of land, now even the family starts blaming you. Okay, now look, what did you do? So if there's a way women can get these financial resources, I think it would help them get more into that space. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Virginia, I'll start off, but FIDA also has been requested to respond to a few things.
I will.
So, okay, so Lucy, thank you for your questions. And yes, it is very difficult to accept the defeat. And many of the things that we were doing prior was based on the, we're hoping that the outcome would be different. And it is close to a gamble as well, because until the very end, we're not very sure that the win is ours or not. So the first thing is evaluating what the journey has looked like for you and the reason why you entered that space. Again, we're not the first ones to enter this elective space, but there's a reason why you particularly chose to enter that. And possibly it's because you wanted to serve the community. And you therefore then decided that one of the ways that I would want to gather resources is by disposing of some assets, helping that would go into my campaign fund. And with the hope that you're going to be able to replace it after you secured the seat. But that didn't happen. So what then do you do? And this is the way I don't put it forward for you. In life, there's nothing that is guaranteed except change. Change is one of the things which is guaranteed. Nothing else is guaranteed. Even if you had not gotten into that position, there's also a possibility that particular land, or you would have gone through a different financial challenge. So when I get clients who come into my sessions and they are extremely distraught about certain decisions that they made and they have lost some money, I say, as long as you're still here, you can actually build wealth again. You can actually buy assets again and leave stuff for your kids. So as long as you stay in the space of regret, then you'll not be able to look for other ways to be able to move forward. So it's accepting that, you know what, I took this gamble because this is the outcome that I wanted to get, but I did not make it. So this is where I am now. Let me count my losses. Okay, the piece of land is not there. I've got loans and this and the other. How do I see best to move forward? And start looking for ways in which you can be able to rebuild yourself again. So that would be the first thing. Accept that this is where I find myself. And then look for ways that you could be able to rebuild your financial base again. And remember, people, whether they've entered that the political race or not, people go through the financial cycles up, down, up, down. So don't feel isolated like you're the only one who has gone through this. People have been able to do it, and be encouraged by that you can still be able to rebuild yourself again. Hopefully your family was on board with you in the decision to dispose of that piece of land to put the resources towards the campaign. If your family was on board, then that is okay. So then they knew that there was a possibility that you'd not get that post. So therefore, then we're coming back to the drawing board and saying, okay, so we want to acquire land to live for our children. What can we do to move forward? So accept number one, and realize that there's nothing in life that is constant apart from change. The next thing is the community. And there's a lady here who also asked at some point that interacting with the community is very difficult simply because you feel betrayed. As you said, you're making a joke. You make a joke there, but deep inside you're feeling the pain that you are the people who are meant to have voted for me. You told me you are going to vote for me. You didn't vote for me. How do you want me to engage with you? And one of the things I said is if it's possible to distance yourself from interacting with them, kindly do so for a period of time. Over and above that, if the jokes work for you, then tell them that. Just say, hey, Aki, you people lied to me. This is not how it was supposed to pan out. You actually lied to me. And if anybody's asking you for help, point them to the elected person. Whoever it is that got the seat, say, hey, look, talk to that person. You're the ones who put that person in. Over and above that, it should not discourage you that this is the end of it. This is an opportunity for you to learn to then see, how do I then move forward? And the question you're asking is, and I'm going to invite Virginia to also give in her 2 cents there, is, are there any resources anywhere that men are accessing, that women can access to enable them? And I think it's important to understand and also possibly access the women who have successfully gone in, the older ones, not the new people who have gone in, the original women politicians. How have they been able to get into this space? What can we learn from them? Because there must be something that they have done. There must be something. Over and above that, there could be actually funds that you can tap into. My encouragement to you would be this. If indeed you want to run for politics at the next election, which I hope that you would, is that then see how to speak to the older women who have been in politics and learn from them. What did they do and what has their journey been like? Because we only see it when they're winning. But behind those wins that we are seeing, there are so many losses that they have in their corner that it's important for us to understand that this scars that you're getting right now is possibly part of their journey, but how did they overcome it? Thank you. Back to you, Virginia, for you to top up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wandia, for that feedback. Lucy had also asked whether there's anything FIDA can do in terms of assisting financially. FIDA, through its Voter Data campaign, which was launched in 2020 in August, was able to support women and at least try to increase the participation of women in the politics. And of course, some of the things that we did, especially for 2020, we began with the Women Leadership Academy, and we were able to train around 318 women aspirants on how to prepare themselves effectively for the coming elections. And then, of course, after that, now we were able to support women aspirants through community radio shows where we're able to, of course, promote the Voter Data campaign. And also, as of now, we have the Election Dispute Pro Bono Advocate Service. And of course, all through the process from the pre-election, that is the nominations, all through after election, we were offering pro bono services for women lawyers, for women aspirants. That is, we have advocates on record who are able to assist in terms of protecting your electoral rights. So taking cases to bodies like PPDT, that is the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal, the IBC, your own political party, we had advocates on record, and we do have advocates on record to assist on that. And also, even after the nomination process, we have also received cases whereby we have received 8 cases from the election after the election period, and we have been able to at least assist them in terms of trying to speak to the political party. But of course, there are other factors involved in that. And if you do wish to get assistance and you do wish to have at least an advocate to assist, feel free to, of course, call our number. I'm not sure if you were there when I was saying it out loud. It's also included in the chats, the 0794 949 899. It will also be posted in the chat. So if you feel like you have a case that you would like us to assist you with, please call that number. That is our EDR line in terms of psychosocial support, because that's also something else that FIDA Kenya is doing. If you do feel like you want counseling services, also feel free to call the same line so that we can be able to assist you with that. And also, Wandia, you'd asked about some of the funds that women can access. We have the WEF, the Women Enterprise Fund. We also have GAF, non-governmental affirmative action fund. We also have the Uwezo fund, which is for the youth. So in terms of what FIDA Kenya can do, we cannot say that we'll give you finances directly, but we do support, voter data campaign, and we do support you through radio shows and also the merchandise. We supported through purchase of merchandise for some of the women who participated in the Women Leadership Academy. We had around 66 women who made it to the ballot. So we were able to support them in terms of merchandise, of how to, campaign before the election day. So at least for the next time when we do launch the campaign again, and once we do support the election, please follow our social media pages, and we will be able to, we'll be able to give you any information on that regard. And also you can always call our numbers, our offices are open, and you can always feel free to reach out through the ADR line also to ask in terms of that.
At this particular point is that I would want to encourage the members who have come here to be very aware of themselves, just to be aware of where they currently are and to see what has changed since the election that were carried out. And what do I mean by this? As I said, human beings are very relational, and we need to interact with people, family, socially. And if you find that you really do not want to interact with them, it has been going on for very long, I would encourage you to look for a professional to speak to. And FIDA has given the number where you can be able to reach out for pro bono services, or for us as well. Never be afraid to ask for help. Never be afraid to ask for help, because if you don't say what it is that you're going through, nobody can assist you. And the other thing that I also want to highlight is that there is nothing new under the sun. No matter how difficult it is to accept, there is nothing new under the sun. Whatever it is that you're currently experiencing, somebody else has experienced it before. And some people have been able to overcome it. But it's only in sharing that then we're able to get some of these solutions. And it should be important, if you know anybody who has tried to vie, or has lost their job, or has experienced a certain type of monumental loss like you have experienced, these people can be able to also share some of the tips that they use to be able to move forward, especially in the space of finances, because it's the one thing, and that's what I've talked about, who have gone through job loss. If you know anybody who has gone through a significant financial loss, ask them how are they able to move on. And we know people who have been able to rebuild themselves after losing a lot. What do they do? What are the tips that they do? But the first thing that I'll say again is acceptance. You need to accept that this is where I am. And acceptance is in the tabulation of the loss. Have the figure, exact figure, 2.5 million, 10.9 million, 11, whatever, to the last coin, know what it is. And then outline and prioritize which ones do I need to get off my neck first. And then speak to people. People want to know what your plan is, because you went to them and you spoke to them and they were able to advance you money. So it's in the same way, because you had a relationship. It's the same way. Go back to them based on the relationship and say, you know what happened? I lost, I don't have the money, so this is my plan. So don't run away from people. Don't avoid calls, don't block people. If you owe them, speak to them. People want to know what your plan is for them. So that is what I would say. Speak, speak, speak. Ask for help. Talk to people. There are resources out there available to assist you. Back to you, Virginia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Wandia, for that. Thank you so much to the participants for this wonderful session. We are truly grateful for you trusting us to be able to at least provide the little help that we can provide. And as I shared before, feel free to reach out to our contact. Again, it is 0794 949 899. Feel free to reach out in case of any support in terms of EDR, that is election dispute resolution, and also in terms of psychosocial support. We are offering both services on pro bono basis. So please feel free to reach out. Feel free to also be, active and proactive in terms of maintaining your mental wellness. Wandia had also shared her contacts. Also feel free to reach out to her. We are truly grateful for Wandia. Thank you so much for the session. It was a wonderful session. Thank you to Victor, Monia, and Yulanzale, who are our sign language interpreters for the session. And once again, thank you to our development partners, USAID, who have assisted us in order to conduct this webinar. Hopefully we'll be able to see you once again, and have a nice, wonderful time, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.